So hey gang, I want to just share a quick leadership or management lesson with you, probably more like a management lesson, okay? So, I walked by a guy's station and I see he's got something playing on his phone. So a few minutes later, it caught my eye, but I didn't stand there and stare at it. A few minutes later, I walk by and I see him shifting it from one position to another position, setting it there so it's within viewing and hearing reach, right? So, as a manager, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize that this is taking away from productivity, right? So how do you handle that? Well, if you ask 10 different managers, you might get 10 different responses, but I just thought I'd share with you, how I handled it and maybe spark some thought about how you might handle a similar situation. So, many years ago, I read a book called The 1 Minute Manager, and this book has influenced my thinking greatly over these types of issues. So I just approached him and I said, "How you doing, Miles?" He gave a thumbs up, gave him a fist bump, gave him a nice big smile. It's kind of disarming, to not approach things with a big heavy, "Could you come to my office and sit down for a 10-minute conversation?" Well, if you read The 1 Minute Manager, it's all about 1 minute praisings and 1 minute corrections. So you see things that need praised, guess what? If you bring them, sit down in your office, and for the next 30 minutes, you just lavish and heap praise on this person, right? Well, it might create the kind of a scenario where, that person might think that he has, keys to the safe and the bank account and, basically leaves him feeling like perhaps he hung the moon and can get by with murder, But of course, if you see somebody that has done something wonderful, of course you want to praise them. Praise him, praise her, and let them know what they did, very specifically, what they did right. So in this case, it was something that I, obviously is taking away from his ability to concentrate on his work. So here's an example of what I did and what might spark a thought on your part. So I said, "Miles, there's very few things in the world that I'm certain of. I'm 99.9% certain that global warming, is not a thing. But that last little bit, can I say that I'm absolutely certain? I'm no scientist. I can't recite the 101 reasons why it's not true. But here's one thing I am certain of, is that if you're 100% focused on your work, chances are by far increased that you'll figure out a way to do it smarter, that you'll reduce the risk of doing it incorrectly, that you'll bring efficiencies eventually, if not right in this moment, eventually you'll bring efficiencies to it. You'll improve if you're focused on it." But I said that video that you're watching, the 10 ways in which you can kill ant piles in your lawn if you happen to be invaded by ants. The second thing I'm certain of is that is detracting from your work. You're having to stop and think about positioning of your phone, and you set it down and it fell, and you're having to stand it up and try to figure out how to position it where you can both see it and hear it at the same time. And so why? And I think this is pivotal. I get it that it's taking away from his ability to do his work faster, quicker, smarter, more efficient, etc. And that's harmful to us as a team. But I think you always want to focus on the benefit to the individual. I mean, there's nobody more important to you than you, okay? So nobody more important to Miles, as an example, than Miles, right? So I think it's important to frame things in such a way as to the tangible, real benefit to Miles. So I said, "Now, Miles, you have dependencies on me to manage effectively, to lead effectively. But I also have dependencies on you. Now, the more important reality is that you have the most dependencies on you. And if you're not truly focused on your work, I'm 100% certain that you're not going to move forward in this organization as fast as you otherwise could. In fact, not just in this organization, in any organization, in your life, you're not going to advance and figure out how to create those contributing benefits that you otherwise could bring. Now, when you do bring efficiencies to things and you figure out how to improve process and improve your work, what happens? Well, you climb that proverbial ladder, right? We can pay you more, and I want to pay you more. So you concentrating on your work has the biggest impact on your ability to advance your career here at Hogg. And you know, I could see that it resonated with him. And he could see that this is not something that you need to stop doing because you are hurting me. You're hurting the organization, and you know, if you do it again, you're gonna put your dang phone in the car and leave it there until you can be responsible with it. And by the way, I think that if you ask around, I've probably been guilty of taking that approach at times. But I think at least as a starting point, just a very positive conversation about all of the ways that he's hurting himself by actually detracting himself from his work. And I do think that any workplace, there is a very real concern and possibility and probability that people in your department are distracted by social media, by paying their bills online while you're paying them to do their work, by just a whole myriad of issues that can otherwise detract them from fully focusing on the work in front of them. And that distractedness is only hurting themselves. So when you're at work, focus on work, and that's going to benefit you in the long term. And when you're off work, focus on all those other things that are very necessary and in many cases very enjoyable, or just necessary and may not be so enjoyable part of your life. But so that's my thought. I wanted to just, you know, bust up right in here and share this with you, and hopefully it'll spark some ideas about how you might handle a distracted comrade on this team. Have a great day.